A scenic and comfortable 2-hour train ride from Paris, the medieval town of Bayeux, France, is a must-visit for its rich history and modern-day charm. Founded as a Roman settlement in the 1st century BC, Bayeux grew around the River Our, which in more recent centuries gave rise to the many mills that once populated the village. Bayeux's town center is an easy 10-minute walk from the train station. Its main thoroughfare is lined with elegant shops and a variety of bistros. But walk a little farther into the surrounding area and an imposing sight just might take your breath away. It's the other Notre Dame, the Cathedral of Our Lady of Bayeux. On this site, it is said, Roman sanctuaries stood 2,000 years ago. The cathedral that stands there now was begun 1,000 years later. The original Gothic structure was expanded in the 12th century, giving this architectural marvel its Norman Romanesque features, from flying buttresses and gargoyles to its massive and intricate barrel vault. In July of 1077, the newly built cathedral was consecrated in the presence of King William the Conqueror. But it was William's conquest of England 11 years earlier that produced Bayeux's most famous historic artifact, the Bayeux Tapestry. The nearly 70-meter or 225-foot-long tapestry contains 58 scenes depicting the story of the Norman conquest in 1066. But tapestry is something of a misnomer for the artifact, since it's actually all embroidered. To this day, debate continues over who may have commissioned it, where it was made, and by whom. Some believe the dyes used in its threads point to an Anglo-Saxon work produced in England. Others say it has elements of a French origin. One thing about which there is general agreement is that it was made sometime in the 2 decades following the events of 1066. Photography of the tapestry is not permitted. These images were taken or sanctioned by the Tapestry Museum. For 7 centuries, the tapestry was housed at Our Lady of Bayeux. In the centuries that followed, it survived the French Revolution and 2 world wars. In June of 1944, the German occupiers of France transferred the treasure to Paris, where it went on display at the Louvre. After the war, the tapestry returned to Bayeux, where today it's on display at the Tapestry Museum, a short distance from the cathedral. The museum has accompanying displays that give visitors more context to the era and the creation of the famous embroidery. Here you can see the kinds of dyes, wool yarn, and tabby-woven linen fabric used in its construction. The museum also features replicas of the boats that carried William and his Norman conquerors across the English Channel, as well as samples of the shields and weapons they carried. The tapestry shows shipbuilders using a side axe and a broad axe in the construction of the vessels, and here are some modern reproductions of the kinds of tools they employed. Visitors can even experience miniature recreations of the England that William and his men encountered 1,000 years ago, including the Tower of London, which William commissioned not long after his victory at the Battle of Hastings. Bayeux's more recent history is also a story of conquest, first by Nazi invaders and then by Allied liberators.
Road junction on the National Highway between Caen and Bayeux. One day in German hands, the next occupied by the Allies.
Stroll down some of Bayeux's narrow roads, and you're likely on what was a warpath during World War II. Bayeux was among the first French towns liberated by the Allies. 8 days after D-Day, General Charles de Gaulle, the leader of the Free French forces, also landed in Normandy after a 4-year wartime exile.
The old Norman town of Bayeux, the first place of any size to be liberated by the Allies, gives him an ardent greeting.
After receiving a hero's welcome, de Gaulle gave his first speech back on his native soil and declared Bayeux the capital of Free France. To this day, the Allied forces are proudly commemorated throughout the Normandy region. Bayeux's proximity to the D-Day landing sites make them all an accessible road trip away. There were 5 code-named sectors for the Allied invasion. Utah Beach and Omaha Beach were the American landing sites. From atop a promontory called Pointe du Hoc, one can see the steep cliffs that arriving American troops encountered at a section of Utah Beach. In the early morning hours of June 6, 1944, German grenades and machine gun fire rained down on Army Rangers trying to scale the 100-foot cliffs. U.S. troops initially suffered a large number of casualties, but 2 days later, the Rangers reached the top of Pointe du Hoc, capturing the site and Nazi war prisoners. Some natural features at the promontory remain the same today as when the Allied liberators arrived. A number of man-made structures from the Germans' so-called Atlantic Wall fortifications are also still in place, including the remnants of bunkers and gun turrets. The scars of war also remain in the surrounding terrain, which is permanently pockmarked with dozens of bomb craters. The obelisk-like memorial on the promontory is in the shape of the daggers used by the Army Rangers who seized the site. And it's here that U.S. presidents have honored the 73,000 American troops who landed in Normandy. With President Ronald Reagan observing the 40th anniversary of D-Day in 1984, President Bill Clinton at the 50th anniversary in 1994, and President Joe Biden at the 80th commemorations in 2024. A few miles to the east of Utah Beach is the small and now tranquil coastal commune of Verville-sur-Mer. But on D-Day it was known as Omaha Beach, and its shores witnessed the bloodiest battles of that historic invasion. Film footage from moments after the landing shows the unimaginable bravery of American troops in the first assault wave, who helped secure the way for others behind them. Much later, that landing was memorialized in the 1998 film Saving Private Ryan. Along the shores of the landing sites are numerous memorials to the Allied soldiers who died and those who carried on to defeat the enemy. All told, 2,500 American troops died in the fighting on the shores of Normandy, France. Just a short distance inland from Omaha Beach is the final resting place for many of them. The American cemetery in Normandy is the hallowed ground for 9,384 troops who died in France during World War II. 4 women who gave their lives in service to the war effort are also buried here. The Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial is the most visited of the 14 cemeteries maintained by the American Battle Monuments Commission, attracting more than 1 million visitors every year. Its memorials are a place for reflection for those who owe an enormous debt to those who gave their all. At one end of the cemetery is a colonnade with a sculpture titled "The Spirit of American Youth Rising from the Waves." To those for whom it was dedicated, that spirit continues to rise because of their sacrifice.